Everyone, and welcome back. As always, we are so excited to be here and talk to you. Quite frankly, this is definitely one of our favorite topics.
Yay, I know. Today we're going to chat about why women gather and the transformative effect it can have on well-being, on relationships, on your outlook and your success.
Yeah, I'm super excited because I get to see you in less than a week. It's for
Yay.
a very short period of time. But, even just being in couples with women
Yes.
is transformative. We see so many memes on Instagram around what the effect even talking to your bestie can do, and then being in person just takes it to the next level.
I know. I'm super, super excited about this, and I'll get to why I'm going in a second. But yeah, and that I live with all men
Yeah,
that I
yes, you
love.
do.
And for the past 3 months, I've invited even more men into my house with this ongoing, never ending remodel situation, old house.
Invites, I think, a strong word. That makes it sound like you want them there. I'm
Well,
not
I'm
sure you
actually
do.
paying them, but I did not picture we would be cohabitating with them with so many other things that we've uncovered and had to pay for this long. So suffice it to say, other than my small female dog, I have no women around me, and I am so hungry for it. I saw my niece last night, and I think I cried hugging her.
Estrogen,
Boys
estrogen.
are awesome, but it is. I'm coming, so I'm coming to see you, but I'm also coming to see your amazing daughter, Star in Violet. And I wish that I know this is going to air after it, and
Yeah,
I wish I could just have this be the plug. Like, oh, you want to see this, you want to see her, you want to see Vapa's productions, and it's
yeah,
so cool that your son did the graphics for it. Like, what a beautiful marriage of talent.
yeah.
I'm super excited, and I get to be there for opening night.
I
And
know.
you and I are always good at making the best of our time together, and we're also really good at, you know, we're not always working when we're together. In fact, sometimes we get together to work and then we play, and sometimes we get together to play and then we work. And
I think we always think we're going to work and then we end up playing.
yeah. But then sometimes when we think we're going to play, we start having a like really juicy work conversation. You're right.
True.
Most of our work gets done over text, like at 5 in the morning. So
Yes, it does. And to kind of pull it back into the topic, I mean, one of the things, and we talked about this when we had Charlotte on last year with Barbie in the Real World, she has an amazing group of women friends, young women friends. And I've been really witnessing that with her, their support of her as she is going through the rehearsal process, as she what do I want to say, tried out for Violet. She found out after the fact that she had different girls going up to the teachers who were deciding on casting and being like, you better put Charlotte in this. You better put, and I'm under no illusions. I hope Charlotte isn't either, that being in the entertainment industry may not always feel like this. But it also makes me wonder around, because she goes to performing arts school. So everyone she's surrounded with, men and women, are in the arts. And, I think media shows us that pits women against each other so often
yep.
that I think I'm finding it so refreshing. And I worry a little that it won't always be like this. But then I have to stop myself and go, says who? Like,
Right.
who's this? This, what we're shown on television or in the media just in general about pitting women against each other, is that just a made up story to sell newspapers, as they used to say? Because
Yeah.
you and I know how we transform when we're supporting each other.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I think I've always said it and repeated it, like women transform in groups. They transform in groups. I know coaches who decided to just focus on group coaching and retreats
Mm-hmm.
because that's their shtick. I think you and I also know we're still coaching individual women who have a lot of sisterhood wounds, a lot of,
Yeah.
but what some people call sister wounds or sisterhood wounds, where they've had really painful experiences, and they've that either the experience or the person were really deeply affected by the patriarchy and all the ways that women are taught to not trust each other or to belittle each other and compete. And that is not actually how we're wired.
No.
So, you know, that those wounds are there. It's super helpful because when I think about our retreat, there's at least one person, but I know there's more actually for each of us, the people we've each coached who have never had great experiences around women and came to the retreat because they trusted us and had such great experience around us women. And so I think that says a lot. So yeah, I've experienced it myself. Like I've been part of, whether it was unstructured, just a women's weekend with just really great women who came together intentionally, or it was a yoga retreat or retreats that I've been lucky enough to facilitate and host and co-host. And it is such an honor to witness, like when women are just exhaling as themselves and feeling seen and loved and uplifted. It's fantastic.
That's interesting that you say that, the unstructured time. I'm so glad you've had that experience, but I am reflecting on one of our retreat participants who at the end talked about how women getting together like old friends for a short amount of time, they spend so much time at the surface level that they don't really get to the deep level. And that is kind of the blessing of going to something that is structured, because the facilitators, such as yourself and I, which we'll talk about in a little bit, make sure that deeper level happens if you're willing to go there, you know, and we've been lucky to have participants who are.
I caught myself in why I added the word intentionally, because I do think, and there's something like that. I'm not knocking a bunch of women getting together and just getting away together. That is like, and for fun and levity and keeping it surface, that's fine too. Like there's some great need and joy in that. What I meant by intentionally is like in a, you know, like, hey, you know, a friend of mine saying, I'm working on doing a lot of writing. I know you're working on something. What if we all like went down to the coast for a couple days and we all kind of spent our time alone, but spent our evenings together and sort of co-work, or go with the intention of like, you know, quiet and powering down and get off screens. So some sort of intention around it. That's not so much a retreat, like nobody's facilitating, but like an intention together. I know women who go away and they do scrapbooking, right? Like that's what they do for the weekend. So I don't do that. So my kids, you know, don't have those scrapbooks, but I'm impressed by the people who do. But, you know, that's what I mean. The intentional piece is also pretty fabulous.
Agreed. And I'm not knocking getting together and just being on the surface level too. I mean, I think about, you know, when you and so, you know, we have known each other for a long time. We worked for a company that had retreats in person, events in person. And so we got to witness, for me, I got to see both sides, because I was there as a student for a point, and then I was there as an employee and a coach and talent, you and I guess, for lack of a better word. Yeah. And so I got to see both sides of it. We got to see how excited people were to be together, how excited they were, and how that transformation did happen in groups. Then COVID hit, right? Everybody shut down, that kind of stuff, rightly so. We've talked about this before. Again, harkening back to season 1, we had Elijah and Melissa on to talk about sisterhood back then and what that looks like. And the 4 of us went on a trip together in October of 21. So kind of, you know, testing the waters of doing that kind of stuff. And we had a fantastic time, but I'm not sure we went super deep, but that wasn't really the point. It was the point of, we had been spending all of our time texting each other, and the 4 of us had never actually ever been in person, all 4 of us together. We had been in little bits of each other. And so there's nothing wrong with just having a weekend where you're drinking wine and going on the beach and laughing and all that stuff, you know? And I was just, and I think you were sort of, I shouldn't speak for you. I remember when Jen said that at the end of the retreat in Laguna, of how it was a noticing for her.
For sure.
That she had never been at an event with women where they had been able to peel off some layers. And I just hadn't thought of it that way until she said it.
And you're also bringing up a great, like, you are also making me think of something to bring up, which is we had 2 women there that have known each other for over 35 years.
Yeah.
And they said being together intentionally at a retreat, you know, I don't, not forced, enabled them to be in a
Mhm.
situation where they went deeper than they ever have before.
I
They,
know.
because there was questions and invitations around things to, offer. We don't force anyone to
Right.
anything. We even said, I don't know if people go back to their room and do this or not, right? But they did. And they came
Yeah.
back with like, wow, we've
Yeah.
gone deeper in our friendship. We didn't even know there was more depths to it. So you're right. It is a beautiful way. And I find this my greatest thrill as a coach is to give people the permission to get out of their comfort zone. Sometimes it's all people need. We want to, but we don't know how. And if we have someone demonstrate it or, kind of put it on the table or even enforce it a little bit, like gently, like really nudge people into it, they can have such a magnificent experience that they wouldn't have if we're like, well, if you want to, otherwise, like,
Yeah, to be fair, we didn't. It wasn't until some people went back to their room that I was like, "Ooh, will they actually do this
right.
activity?" And lo and
Because it's
behold,
deep.
they
It was
yeah, because it was
deep.
deep, and I thought, "Ooh," and God is blessed, not they totally did.
Yeah.
But I think back to Ann Tressa talked about this in her episode, "Be the Role Model You Want to See," how
Mhm.
she was trepidatious about coming to the retreat because she thought she was going to be forced to be something she wasn't
Yeah.
comfortable being. And she took that leap of faith because I think you're right. Women know, anybody, humans, but I
Mhm.
think we're talking about women today. We know, we have this inkling that if we stretch ourselves to be more vulnerable, that things could open up in a new way. And so having those opportunities lovingly um
Yeah.
pushed
Yeah.
into that kind of
And
stuff is really great.
we'll get into that. Like if you have like a little spark of a goal and how do I go about that? How do I do that? Oh, that's never going to happen. You're probably right. If you stay home and keep doing your life the way you're doing it, it doesn't mean you're not going to have a great life. It just means it's going to take longer, or you're going to convince yourself that it's never going to happen. But when you actually show up and like, buy the plane ticket or make the drive and show up somewhere to be with women that or even ones you don't, but you've, found the inviting, the invitation to be inviting. Um, when you do that, big things happen in your life.
Yeah.
Sure. Like you really like there's something about the way our brain and our nervous system works that's like, wow, this is new. You did this and look what's opening up for you. Look what's coming alive. So it's great. It's just the spark, right? It's so
Yeah.
great.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about getting together in person versus just over technology, right? So um when we did the retreat in Laguna, we did do a pre-Zoom so everybody could kind of get to know each other over screens. We did a post-Zoom, which was super fun. But you and I had an offer at the end of the retreat of a group program,
Mhm.
and no one bought. And you and I then took a step back and went, that's not really what we want to do. So huzzah, nobody said yes.
Mhm.
But I think part of it was, at the retreat, they kept talking about when's the next retreat, when's the next retreat. That's what they wanted, was the in-person connection. We all have Zoom fatigue even after all this time. Yes, we've learned how to manage it, but they weren't interested in just seeing each other in little squares on the computer. They
Right.
really wanted to be in person. So
Right.
what do you attribute that to?
That's funny because since then several have asked, "Are you guys going to do that?" I think at the
Oh,
time
seriously?
it's like they were just together and that's what they wanted, and then they're
Interesting.
like, "Oh, I hope you do that." And I think you're right. I don't know that. I think because you and I weren't sure we wanted to do it, I don't know that we've made a full on.
I don't
Let's
think we had the
do
energy
it.
behind it.
Yeah,
I agree
yeah.
100%. Yeah.
But no, I think technology has made it like thankfully, like I really, as somebody who sometimes says like I'll take space from social media, I think social media and technology has made it so nice. But like I think of like a client who's like in the far reaches of Canada, that wouldn't have found community any other way than technology. So like
Yeah.
I think that there's no bagging on it. It's just being together does so much for the nervous system and for the your sense of self and your sense of space and your sense of connection, right? So it just creates that intimacy and camaraderie that's really hard to replicate online. Now, I will say it's really cool that we combined it when I think about it, because like, we had everybody meet online so that when they showed up, they were like looking for each other. They were super excited. But I think, like we facilitated that and we also had some great people. I think it would not have worked that way had we done that and then just kept meeting. It might have, but like it really like just became solidified when people met in person.
Yeah. I mean, to watch all those women walk in the door having already kind of met each other, got to hear the intentions. I mean, and there was a few people who hadn't made the Zoom, but and they weaved right
Oh,
in there with no problem, you know.
mm.
Um, but yeah, I think it was a nice combo. And you and I both, we've run masterminds online. I've run group programs, you've run group programs. That is great when there's nothing else. You know, I mean, this is an absolute gift to have these kinds of this technology available to us, and to be able to physically put your arm around someone, to feel their energy. I mean, yes, you can feel it a little bit over the
Toast.
stream. Yeah, literally clink glasses.
Yeah.
It's there's really nothing like it. And I think that the pandemic showed us what we had been taking for granted forever, for our entire
Right.
life.
And as you're saying that, I'm also thinking like again, going back to what we were touching on, the decision that like the recognition, I need this, I need something. I'm not even, you don't have to know what it is. Like you
Yep.
don't have to know it, but and then to show up. Two different things happen depending on how you got a room. One was like you're committing to this and you're giving yourself like this beautiful space of a room to yourself, right? Where like the towels and the bed stuff, like it's all done for you and waiting for you. And in that case, there was like also an ocean outside to look at, but and then sounds of seagulls. But for some other people, they shared rooms. Some didn't already know each other, some
Yeah.
did. And what a great connection that was. You and I shared a room, and how we've talked about that since. Do we want to do that again? We don't have to. And we love it. Like the
Yeah.
intimacy, the connection, the sharing of space was sparking something. It was almost like a subplot that was happening, right? Like
Subplot.
all the little
Yeah.
and subplots that were happening and the connections between people who were sharing rooms. And how beautiful it was to see a young mom with a little one, or like a really busy, hospice nurse having their own room, right? And or
Yes.
like our dear friend Melissa, like having her own room, getting away from like all the intense, workings of her life with a young child. So it's like, it's a beautiful, it wasn't the focus of the retreat, but it was a beautiful addendum to like, how do you get what you need to experience this?
Well, and then even, you and I plan our retreats so that on Saturday night, dinner is on your own.
Right.
And I suspected this would happen, as did you. Pretty much all went to dinner together. And the ones that didn't go to dinner together stayed back and hung together,
Yes.
So it's like, and yet it was still, exactly what they needed because they weren't getting more information. But, you would think, oh gosh, if we just spent all day together, we probably want to all go their separate ways. You don't.
Right.
When you're
And
in that cocoon, you want to stay in that cocoon.
I've been to several different types of retreats, and I've held some different ones, and I have to say, the beautiful intention of planning every minute is not what women need. Women are creative enough, and they like to find their own way. So it's like finding that balance. It's been done well for me, and it's been overdone, and sometimes it's been underdone. It's like, well, like we're isolated here. Where can we go? But
Yeah.
there's always opportunities. So why do you think, because I like this is what you and I believe, and this is the water we swim in, but you and I both know there's a ton of people we come across who are like, that sounds nice. I've never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many women don't ever participate or plan or prioritize time away with other women?
Well, I think we've touched on it a little bit, right? There can be the aspect of, so we say this all the time, but experiences inform beliefs. And even if you haven't had a bad experience with women, I never have. I feel God is blessed that I've never had issues with women. I've mostly always worked with women, and that's just been fantastic for me. But even if you haven't had that experience, let's use the umbrella term of the patriarchy, which is everything, right? Tells us that women don't get along. That when they're
Mhm.
together, they're competing, and they're comparing and despairing, and they're fighting, and they're being bitchy and blah blah, fill in the blank. And so it can, if you've never done this before and you don't completely understand it, I can imagine there is a ginormous level of fear.
I get it. Yeah, I was actually, when I asked you that, I was thinking, you're right, we've already covered that, but I also was thinking so many women don't prioritize it. Like they feel like it's a luxury.
Totally. Absolutely. But again, that to me is part of the patriarchy, right? Is that, women we naturally are caretakers
Hmm.
until we have no fucks left to give. And so the idea of leaving my kids, what's my husband going to do? I mean, I will say Darren actually said to me, when you go to Chicago, I probably have to learn how to do the laundry. Sorry, Darren. But I was like, yeah, you might have to.
It's like you learned how to take out the trash.
I did exactly. Yes, I did learn how to take out the trash. For those of you not watching YouTube, I'm hard eye rolling. Um, and it was a joke. So sorry, Darren.
Yes.
It was a joke. That being said, I think that was one of the things that we loved about our young mom who came. It was her first time, and she knew intuitively she needed to do this, and it would make it better for her daughter and
Hmm.
her relationships. That's the thing when women don't prioritize themselves, it's because they have been led to believe that if they drop the ball, all hell breaks loose. And quite the opposite happens. If they pick up the ball and take care of themselves first, everyone else actually enjoys the fruits of that relaxation, the fruits of that paying attention to themselves. No one suffers when a woman puts herself first. They
No.
actually thrive because she does.
Mm. I just got real chills thinking about that because I was, it's that watch, like we know this, and still I think we were both in awe and so honored to watch people immediately feel like, oh, I'm not alone. And I think it
Yeah.
happened even quicker, like lightning fast than you and I, faster than you and I expected, right? From
Oh,
the moment
beyond.
people showed up, they hadn't even sat down yet. They were opening up to each other, as they told us later, in ways they never have with anyone else in their life. And that's like what's possible when you open yourself up to just being held by other women is, oh wow, I see you, what's your story. In fact, we had people find out, like we want you to introduce each other instead of yourselves, and
That's
like
fine.
find out like what did it take for you to get here, and how are you a big deal, like where are you a big deal, how are you a big deal, what's something I can brag about you. And that was a little like confronting for some people, but just so fun and wonderful that people's humor shined through, and their light kind of lit up, but they're like, wow, I get to tell this thing that nobody's asked me about, or I really appreciate people hearing what it took for me to get here, and
And we had a
it
lot of weather issues, so it took a lot for a lot of
did.
people, including you, to get there.
Oh my
So,
gosh, yeah. So it really, like, that piece of it, the I'm not alone, cannot be overstated. That one of the reasons, it sounds obviously like so obvious, you go to be with other people to not be alone. It's not even that obviously you're not alone. It's to realize that you're not alone in everything you've been feeling and thinking and wondering. And the things that you know, feel bad about thinking, you realize, oh, this is normal. This is normal.
well, and
And
I
this
think
is
you carry that home then, right? So, yes, you're
right.
right. It's not about not just physically not being alone in that moment, but it's recognizing that your past experience has not been singular. Um, and then you move forward, not at the retreat, back in your own world, and you carry that knowledge forward too. Like, okay, yeah, right now I'm going through it, but I know I've got these ladies, we've kept a thread going with them. And even today, we had somebody pop in and be just like, I just want to acknowledge this is not easy work, and hearts
Yeah.
and responses. And, so I'm going to give us props. I mean, part of this is the container we're creating, no
Yeah.
question, but we didn't invent this, And so if we know why people don't come, why women don't do this, what what do you think makes women be early adopters,
Mhm.
without the marketing? We've had some people already for the fall retreat, which we'll talk about in a second. Early adopters, they were like, the link opened, they were on, they were in there.
Right. Well, some because they've been to one, one of ours,
True.
like, or they've been to
True.
other retreats.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like women are, well, all humans, because my sons and my husband too, I think we're all hungry for in-person interactions, right? I mean, as we're finding out with your husband and his coworkers, they're not people aren't dying to go work in person, but I think
No.
people are dying to interact in person.
Yes.
And those are two different things often. In community settings, women, they bring such a different variety of perspectives and skills and wisdom and experiences. And when everyone has the opportunity to share that, this collective, like this collective current just raises everyone's ships, right? Like everyone just lights up and doesn't feel threatened, but like really inspired. And I find that unique to women. I'm not saying that men aren't capable of that. I've experienced that with wonderful men, but in general, a lot of males will tell me like that's where sometimes their egos can start to feel like, oh, and I just don't see that when women get together, when they're in a setting
So wait, the
celebrating
thing that media tells us that women do in gatherings, you're telling me that men actually do that curious.
right? Yeah, and I've been in enough, like I've been in a yoga retreat where a 90-year-old got into a handstand, but she came in there going, there's no way I'm going to do what y'all are doing. I've been at retreats where women walked across coals and stuff. I know I didn't go to the Tony Robbins one. I know they do that there. It was a different one. But like where you just watch women realize like what they're made of and what they're capable of, or where they get in front of people and sing, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've seen that. And again, I think there's plenty of men who have these same experiences. I just have had more men tell me that, in certain gatherings, it's intimidating. And I've
Sure.
never actually been intimidated when I've been in a group of women that their intention is to hold each other up. They really do.
No, and I love to be in a room where there are women that are farther along than me and women that are not as far along than me, whether it's in business or life or whatever. That's one of the things I loved about the age range in Laguna was it went from late 20s to early 70s. And yet age was a construct there. There was nobody, well, you're this age, or oh, you're this age. If anything, we were sort of bowing down to the women that were older, like, oh my God, you're exactly our people, right? The best is not behind you. So I think, yeah, I like to be in a room where somebody's going to stretch me and I can stretch someone else. I don't feel any competition.
I love that. And one thing I just want to be really clear about too, and I'm like, people might be intimidated. They might not if people get to celebrate. I know our friend Elijah is like, really big on women bragging, like celebrate and, like really get used to not hiding your wins, but also, there's that whole perception that keeps women separate. They have it all, they are really good, they're put together, they're more confident than me. And when you come together, you do realize nobody's perfect, that
I
everybody
cried through the
their
entire
own
thing.
journey. Right, like everyone's got their own journey. When people get together and like, oh, my marriage isn't that great, but this part's going well, or I feel great in my marriage, I feel like a total, like I haven't done anything with my professional life, or like whatever it is. And maybe they weren't even big things, maybe they were small things, like I just can't get my shit together and cook, or whatever it was. People got to just feel like there was nothing wrong with them admitting that, right? Or I hate this part of my life, right? Or like this is the thing I want to change, but I love everything else. I think that's it. Like we're all on our own journeys. We all have insecurities, fears, wounds, various things that we would like to shift in our lives. And when everyone looks at you and goes, "Oh, me too," either the same thing or something similar, then it's like you can just let go of that, that self-criticism and that judgment, which is all the kind of stuff that keeps us isolated. You find out it's not really there. Yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, what you're talking about is bearing witness, right? I mean, we do set the sort of ground rule of nobody's there to fix each other, that we're just there to support and uphold and bear witness. Unless somebody says, anybody have any feedback, then okay, sure. But I think that could break down the fear of I'm going to be judged if I say this. You come as you are, and it is just about bearing witness to everyone's individual experience. And in that individual experience, there's a Venn diagram of people that are going through the same shit.
Yes.
And you're just like, really? But you look blah, blah, blah on social media, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think this quote was by someone named Kate Hodges. Do you know who that is?
I don't think so.
But like it was behind every great woman is another great woman.
Snaps. I love that. That might have to be on swag. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about collaboration.
Okay.
So, you know, what is it about collaborating with other women that is different than collaborating with other humans?
I think in an article that you and I read for a different episode, I can't remember which one it was, but I came across it when I was thinking about this one. It was like study after study shows women who support women are objectively and collaborate with other women are objectively more successful. A study published in the Harvard Business Review demonstrates women are more likely to achieve the highest possible levels of success in their careers if they collaborate with other women or their inner circle is made up of other women. Woo. Yay. So
Hooray.
why collaboration? I think because of everything we've talked about, to actually create one of those together we go farther scenarios, whether it is professional or it's in a family or and maybe if it's in a family, I'm in a obviously heterosexual, I'm the only woman in my house, so maybe it's not even females, but just like with more of a feminine approach, right?
Yeah.
There is a lot more inclusivity that's going down. And again, neither Lisa or I are trying to bash men here. That is not it. I think when you give more women opportunity to collaborate in leadership, you're going to see a lot more people at the table. You're going to hear a lot more ideas being
diversity
heard.
of ideas. Yeah.
Right.
Men and women. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an aspect I feel of like a rising tide lifts all boats,
right.
when there are more women in collaboration, whether it's women in collaboration with other women or women and men in collaboration. But if the percentage is at least equal women and men, you're going to see more diversity of thought and experience, and inclusivity for sure.
And women will pull resources. And I was just thinking about what you were telling me about Charlotte and her friends in this whole process of getting this production. They're looking out for each other. They're making sure that people's voices are being heard, that talent is getting seen. There's a lot of beautiful energy that's happening. I mean, I think we also see all those studies, and I don't know how many of them are official. Some of them are about the release of oxytocin and how women live longer and are more likely to be cancer free if they're collaborating more. They're in the company of women more, and they have those kind of relationships. I love that. I think that speaks to the kind of energy that the uplifting energy and the positive endorphins of collaborating, working together, and getting the greatest outcome for more people.
Yeah, no, yes, I agree. I mean, I think it just feels to me like when there's women in the room, even if there's men in the room too, and again, I'm not saying that from a bashing standpoint, but the women are going to make sure that everyone gets heard, versus I do think there can be experiences where men just want to be heard.
And some women too, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Very clear on that. So what about being around other women, do you think shows each other the challenges that we all, I mean, I guess the question is, we've talked about how we all in our own little silos think we're the only one going through something. And so we do run, again, we run up against challenges that are in our personal life, in our professional life. And what is it about gathering that equalizes that?
Well, I mean, I think if women gather and there is no structure, like we talked about, let's say just a bunch of women go, away for the weekend. There's a great potential that just on the way there and while they're there, people are going to do some sharing and some opening up, and there's going to be some vulnerability, and people are going to realize like, wow, I had no idea she's going through that, and
Yeah.
I'm going to share something too, right? Um, and we also know sometimes alcohol gets involved. We've all watched like the Real Housewives stuff. And I think that that's like obviously, blown out of proportion. But I mean, I think that there can also be some like misunderstandings. We're all human. But in general, I think there is just the opportunity to have a real conversation, to not have to feel like you have to hold up some image like you might feel in your silo, right? Like I'm gonna really let my hair down here and get some support around something. So I think that that's generally whether if, and then when it's structured, when there's a theme that invited people there. I mean, like there's so many different types of retreats. You and I put on one that is a particular flavor for quite a few women of different ages, because we had people in their 20s all the way into their 70s. But there's it's not the flavor for some people. For some
Right.
people, they want it to be really deeply rooted in you know I don't know, just for example, like Buddhist retreats or a yoga retreat or silent retreats. We would not be doing one of those, but
Can you
there's a lot
imagine
of
me
like,
at a silent retreat?
no. But I although I mean you're good at your alone time, but no, I can't imagine you. Um, but like when there's some structure or a theme that's invited you there, then it's already kind of planted the seeds that you get to come together around that. So there's an assumption that you get to kind of approach through that door. Like if
Yeah.
we're all trying to live our best chapter, what does that look like, and what's getting in the way of me stepping into that? So I think there's just that giving yourself permission to be open to this being way more than you thought it could be, or being different than you thought it could be, but knowing you need something and trusting that like you're going to be with the women you need to be around.
And I think,
Does that answer
and
your question? I feel like I went
no,
way off
I
on
think
it.
no. Yeah, no, it did. And I think it, I mean, in some ways we're saying the same thing over and over again, right? And it's because we've had our retreat, we're planning the next one. So this is really top of mind for us. But when you're in in the moment of the retreat, of a retreat, right? For however long it is, a weekend, a week, however long it is, you are in a cocoon of utopia in some ways, right? I know we felt that about the HCI retreats. I felt that when I did the AIDS ride. It's just like this moment of togetherness, everybody moving in the same direction, at their own pace, right? And so that's its own little gorgeousness, where we've uplifted and supported each other, but then you are a changed person from that. And so when you leave, and we talk about this at our retreats, like when you leave, you're going back to the same physical life, a different person. And that has its own challenges too. But now you've got this gorgeous little community of women that have your back, even if it's over a social
Mhm.
media app.
And it's funny. I know you say that, and I agree on a certain level, but I never think of it as a different person. I think you go back more you than you came in, right? Like I think you're going
That's
back to
different.
that version. I guess you're right. It's true. I'm a big believer that like you're just unburdening yourself, or just unburying yourself from all the stuff you put on yourself, which life
Totally.
does. And you go back more you, and it does feel different. So we
Yeah.
are thing. It does feel different to go back and be like, it's like getting a haircut. No one notices.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just think about our one our one retreat participant who I've talked to, and she literally was like, I got home and started manifesting the shit out of my life.
Right.
And she had been doing the work up into the retreat. And the retreat was I think, that final puzzle piece that just unlocked everything for her. And so I do think
Yeah.
most of the people that I think there is probably a level of going to a retreat ready to go. I do think there could be people who aren't ready to go, and that's okay.
And they're longing for
Yeah.
something, and they're open to it, and you know, like wanting to just be around inspiring women. I think women get together, whether it's socially or in a retreat setting or professionally, I think they get together to be witnessed. It's very powerful to be witnessed and seen by other women. And when you've got something that it feels important, but you're like, not sure about the timing of it or the scope, and to just speak to it and have a bunch of other women go, yeah, I see that for you. I see that and more. You're right. It like you can't get that in on Zoom the way you can get it in person. And
Yeah.
it feels real, and things start to shift right away.
So this has all been very motivational and aspirational. What about just having fun?
I think
What about levity in these experiences?
there's at least a few people that were like, you know, what is one of their things that they're leaving with? They're like, more fun, damn it. Like, I
Yeah.
just want to have more fun. And that was like the amount of laughter, the amount of levity, like all of that, I think is what you and I are trying to be about. I think a lot of our, like, we thought this was all going to be just like a comedy, not a comedy, but you know, like we crack each other up, but so much of our topics have been so near and dear and emotional, and that's just how women are. We're
Yeah.
capable of all of it. And I think that you know, is you're going to find that in when you find your people at whatever type of retreat or event or gathering you go to. You'll know that's your people when you can find levity and laughter and just fun no matter what. And I think that, I mean, it's just medicine for the soul, and it reduces stress and it releases oxytocin. So it's so good to laugh and feel light, and not about the doing, but just about the being, and just really, you know, reveling in that, I think is super important. And for other people, like, travel is so fun. So like traveling to go somewhere you're not used to, or going to a warmer place when you're living in a cold place, or, you know, like that part is a real joy as well. I mean, I know some people find travel stressful. I don't. I love it.
Yeah.
But sometimes the change of scenery is what people are desiring, and that's the enjoyable part. But hopefully you're going to be cracking up all the way through transformation, because if you're not laughing,
You're crying.
crying, and you're gonna cry, but you might as well laugh too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, there is literally nothing better than a good, hearty laugh till you cry, laugh till you can't breathe. And I do see women do that, let loose in that way in community for sure. Even if it is just the community of two. You and I have laughed until we can't breathe. Just the two of us sitting in a hotel room. So.
What I love too is that I've been visiting you, and we're down by the pool where you live, and Charlotte comes to be with us. Like,
yeah,
that's so fun to have like little,
like young
multi-generational
versions.
girl time. Yeah.
Yep, totally.
Even though she's
Totally.
such an old soul, but yeah.
Well, this, you know what, I've been thinking, like, gosh, does this feel like it's just an infomercial for the retreat? And it's not, because the reality of it is, as we've said many times, this could be a little 5-person get together for dinner. This could be 2 girlfriends. You know, we've talked about this before too. Like, you come into town and I go and stay at the hotel with you, and Darren's like, what the hell? Why? Because that is in and of itself a retreat for me, to be somewhere else, you know. So this isn't just about what we bring. There are millions of amazing retreats. I was just on a group call the other day, and someone was looking for a wellness retreat, and it was offered up to her a really great place in Costa Rica. So, I mean, you have your own visions of what is important to you and what needs to be filled. And there is a space for you out there to find that. But we would be remiss if at the end of this, we didn't talk about our retreat coming up in fall of 2024, in case you are listening to this pod in, let's say, 2026. This is our fall 2024 retreat.
Yes. So yeah, yeah, I echo everything Lisa says, because there's something out there for you. You could just go to, you know, Google it. I've had people show up at yoga retreats that didn't know anyone, and they were just like, I just found you Googling it. So you're right. This is our best chapter yet, series of retreats, where they're becoming these semi-annual. best chapter yet. And this one is taking place in beautiful downtown Chicago at the Voca Hotel right on the Riverwalk. I'm super, do you say Riverwalk?
Yeah, right on the river. Yeah. I mean, we do have
And
a river walk, but
we are so excited. We already have women registering. We will cap it because we like to keep them, intimate. Our last one was there was around 20 of us. Yep.
yep,
And this one, we will make that slightly more, but maybe
yeah,
we're going to cap it at 30. So
yeah,
we really encourage you, if you're interested in checking it out, please do. You will see more information about it in the show notes.
yep. And if
And
you have any questions, feel free to email us and we'd be happy to explain. Because I've had a few people reach out and be like, blah, 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 is this for me? And, you and I are the queens of not being attached to the outcome, as we just did an
yeah,
episode on that. But the women that have reached out, kind of to our point, they
yeah,
have an inkling that this might be the thing. And so they're throwing out almost challenge blocks to themselves. Like, well, maybe I'm not ready because of this, 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 and this. I'm like, no, that's exactly why you're ready. But yes, you want me to talk about how much excitement I have going back to
yes,
Chicago?
yes. Why are we going to, why Chicago? Why are we doing it in Chicago?
Why Chicago? Why not? As I think some of you know, maybe don't, I lived for 20 years in Chicago. I grew up in Ohio. I lived from age 27 to whatever, 47 in Chicago. It is my chosen hometown, no question. My kids were born there. I feel like, talk about community. I mean, yes, I had girlfriends growing up, no question. I had really good girlfriends. But when I got to Chicago, and especially after I had Liam, I started to understand what community was, when I had Liam and I needed a mom's group. And then I found the school the kids went to. And so I became friends with those moms. I'm still friends with those moms. I will probably see them. If they don't come to the retreat, I'll see them in Chicago while I'm there. It is just, if it wasn't gray a good portion of the year, I would still live there. I absolutely adore Chicago, and Chicago in October is perfection. You're going to have the blue skies and the trees are changing color. And I do know this hotel, it has been rehabbed since I lived there, but I will just say this, the women that we're working with to set this up have been phenomenal, and they
Yeah,
feel like our people.
yeah.
And they are like so excited about having this group of women there. And I just think we've got floor to ceiling windows in the room we're going to be in. The menu looks fantastic. And we're in the heart of Chicago. So on that Saturday night, when you get to go do whatever you want to do, you are going to have ample opportunity to enjoy Second City, my ass. Like, it is,
Mm-hmm.
to me, absolutely my favorite city. And I love LA, but this is my favorite city in the
But it's
United
not
States.
second to LA, it's second to New York, right? Isn't
It is second to New York.
Yeah, okay.
It is
I
second to
mean,
New
I'm
York.
air quotes to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
got their different favorite cities, but and another reason why Chicago is because a lot of our people traveled out to the West Coast for the winter
Yep.
retreat, and we'll try to keep doing that in the winter when people want to get away from there. But what a beautiful time of year to go there. I'm super, super excited about it.
Yeah, I like that we're having a central location,
Yeah,
one that I'm very familiar with, so that helps,
yeah.
and you love as well. And yes, I think our fall or winter-ish spring retreat will definitely be in warm locations, no question. There, no way in hell I'm going to Chicago in February. God bless, but I'm not going.
No,
You'd have to go by yourself.
awesome. So what's a good song? There's a million songs because she puts together playlists for everything. And we have a great retreat playlist that we'll continue
Yeah.
to add to. But so this wasn't on it.
No, but it's going to be on the next one.
Okay.
100%. This, I thought of it as I was looking up, like, oh, this is the first song on the second on the playlist for the next retreat. So at first I texted you, I was like, are you okay with this? Because on the face of it, it seems kind of goofy, but the way I read the lyrics, it's not. And so we're all in this together from High School Musical. If you are a Gen X mom, you probably had kids that watched High School Musical over and over again. You probably thought Zac Efron was cute, and so you probably had no problem watching it with them. Maybe that's just me, but I love High School Musical. And yesterday was Griffin's birthday, and he
Uh,
also loves
he
High School Musical.
does.
So
And
shout
he
out
loves
to
to,
Griff.
yeah, he loves karaoke, and those are some of his favorite songs. And what's interesting is, um, I my kids didn't watch it. They like, I don't, it seemed like my older nieces and nephews did, and my friends' kids did that were older. My
Huh.
kids didn't, but when Griffin was like super into basketball and
Oh yeah.
was, you know, like I could not watch Space Jam one more time. He watched it about, 30 times. I was looking for, and I saw like 17 again with Zac
Oh
Efron
yeah.
playing
Yeah.
basketball, and it reminded me, oh my gosh, Griffin loves Glee. He loves shows about basketball. I know what to show him. And then, of course, my other boys came in the room, sort of acted like they were going to make fun of it, and watched it all with us. And Griffin loved it, and still does.
Well, I was listening to it to pull up the lyrics, and I was like, this song really jams. Like, this is really fun. It made me super happy. So the lyrics I wanted to grab from "We're All in This Together" from High School Musical is, "Together we're there for each other every time. Together, come on, let's do this right. Here and now, it's time for celebration. I finally figured out that all of our dreams have no limitations. That's what it's all about. Everyone in there, okay, I lost in there something. We make each other strong. We're not the same. We're different in a good way. Together's where we belong. We're all in this together. Once we know that we are, we're all stars. And we see that. We're all in this together, and it shows when we stand hand in hand."
Now I'm trying to remember the dance.
Yeah, I was doing it, believe me. Yeah, well, and
Together.
there's a little of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a
Um,
different song.
okay, and we don't always do this, but I have a great Beyonce quote for this as well. So
Okay.
share that.
Well, yes, I almost pulled up Destiny's Child because I mean,
Yes,
talk about
right,
sisterhood. Yeah.
right. And it is, I want to build a community where women of all races can communicate and continue to support and take care of each other. I want to give women a space to feel their own strength and tell their stories. That is power.
Snaps to Queen Bee. And I think, not to go off on another tangent, but like her coming out with Cowboy Carter, like that's a perfect example of people coming in and like trying to knock her down, and
And
fucking
Dolly
Dolly
is like,
Parton's
yeah,
like, bitch, please.
yes.
So there are, if you look for them, and it shouldn't be that hard, but if you look for them, you will see how women actually do lift each other up. But
All
you
the
have to
time.
break through the fucking bullshit to see the truth of the matter, which is women do realize that when we are in community, we are so much stronger together than we are tearing each other apart. No question.
Awesome.
So that's it for this week's episode. It was a juicy one, as always.
Yeah, we would love to hear your experience with gathering, or like if you haven't had any, right? And because if you haven't had great experiences with women, we invite you to really consider how you want to heal that sister wound. Either one of us, if you ever look in the show notes, you can book a free discovery call with either of us. But we would love to chat with you to see if this retreat, or any retreat, doesn't have to be ours.
Totally.
It doesn't have to be a retreat. Like we can help you brainstorm, but what's a great way for you to start seeking community around women? Is it a book club? Like what is it
Yeah.
that see and hold you and believe in you? Okay. So start small. Think about that. Like look at right under your nose and think about other women you have access to, and see if they want to start getting together somewhat intentionally, right? But also reach out to us. And if you're curious about the retreat, check the show notes. We got all the links there.
Yep, sounds good. And until next time, we always thank you for listening. Please follow this pod if you aren't already. And more importantly, this might be a really good one to forward on to your friends who could maybe use a little women lifting women each other up. I mean, quite frankly, that's the whole mission of this pod. And of course, we would love to see you in Chicago this fall. As Kari said, you can find the link to register in our show notes. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back next week.
And I'll see you before that.
Yes. Bye.
All right, so long. Bye.